be up there speaking as well. But today we're talking about Brailsford R. Brazil from the Morehouse College class of 1927. Yeah, 1927, so basically a very long time. Yeah.
Is some class of 27 too?
Yeah, there are some classes. Who's class of 27? Okay, you're a centennial.
Centennial brother.
Your centennial brother, Brailsford Brazil. There's also a residence hall, obviously named Brazil. Who lives in Brazil? Who's lived in Brazil? Yeah? All right. When I was in school, it was called Forbes, but now it's called Brazil. And interestingly enough, Brazil's house, the house where he lived and lived with his wife and raised his two daughters and entertained students and faculty and staff, is right on the corner across from Mount Moriah Baptist Church. At what was 193 Archer, now it's 193 Ashby, now it's 193 Lowry, but that's where he lived. So Brazil was a dean of the college. They call it dean of men. He was an economist. He was an educator. He was a writer. And like I said, he graduated with a degree in economics in 1927, earned a master's degree from Columbia in 1928, came right back to Morehouse where he was recruited by then President Dr. John Hope, who was the first black president of Morehouse College. And he taught for several years, went back to Columbia, got a PhD, golly, of course, in 1942, and was working at Morehouse molding mines and building Morehouse, the Morehouse that you know today, for the better part of his life. And so he was the ultimate alum who obviously went to school here. He was from Dublin, Georgia. Is anybody here from Dublin? Okay, of course. Shout out Dublin. Okay, we got two. Shout out to Dublin, Georgia. Yeah, he's over there, somewhere over there. Yeah, y'all got to go meet each other, Dublin. All right, he was from Dublin, Georgia, and went to Morehouse Academy.
Now, do you know anything about that? I've heard about the Morehouse Academy days. There was a time, for students that don't know, before Morehouse was a prominent college in the city, Atlanta Baptist had basically a high school. It was called an academy, but these young men would be at Morehouse Academy their senior or junior year, and then seamlessly transition to Morehouse with already knowing the culture. They weren't doing the work, but they were already knowing the culture of the school, and once they got into the school, they were, as Dean Brazil, and Dr. Brazil was one of those people, he was already ready to be academically excellent and continue to push the bounds at the collegiate level of what was possible for black men at that time. So if you know anything about the Morehouse Academy, I would want to know more about that as well.
I know a little bit about it, but you perfectly explained it. But it was essentially a high school, and his family, Brazil's family, sent him from Dublin to move into Graves Hall, to live there, and to go to high school classes at the Morehouse Academy. And then once he'd completed that part of his education, then he applied to Morehouse. It was a great feeder program, obviously, but he then attended Morehouse College, where he where he was very active in campus organizations, including one of the initial initiates of the Psi chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and he was very, very active on campus as well. But there are a number of those grads in the early 20s, in the 10s, 20s, 30s, that attended the academy. And so for some people, they were at Morehouse High School, lived at Morehouse High School and college. Not all of them were boarders, or not all of them necessarily stayed on campus, but a number of them did. So in the words, "We pledged our lives to thee," they literally had done that in that time.
Yeah, I think as I've learned more about Dr. Brazil, and of course, I think it's something that every Morehouse man should do, is figure out who came before you in your major, who came before you in your house, who came before you in general on campus. Any man that has his name on a building around here isn't just a brother. So to learn that that same man put 40 years of not only his work life, but that academic excellence that we're talking about, the mindset that was crafted in the academy, he continued to push on campus. I know I read about Dr. Mays was one of the people that brought Phi Beta Kappa to campus,
Right.
but Dr. Brazil was Phi Beta Kappa
Right.
and came from Columbia and was one of the lead voices in allowing, or being kind of that tipping voice of like, this should be at Morehouse College. If Phi Beta Kappa is to be taken seriously as a diverse liberal arts, high academic fraternity or organization, we need to be a part of that. And it was pretty evident with men like Dr. Mays and Dr. Brazil walking up and showing their resumes, but if it wasn't for the work of men like that and doing that work for 40 plus years, it's hard to say if that would be here. And I think that's a definitive part of his legacy.
I couldn't agree more. And Dr. Mays was actually Dr. Brazil's professor when he was a student here at Morehouse. And to your point about the academic excellence, if it weren't for the example set by individuals like Dr. Brazil, fighting for international studies opportunities for our students, for distinction in these internationally and highly acclaimed honor societies like Phi Beta Kappa, coming to Morehouse. Morehouse is only the third historically black college or university that has a Phi Beta Kappa chapter. I think there's only 4 total, actually. So Spelman is the 4th after Morehouse. Spelman is the 4th, also Fisk University and Howard. So, what did I say? So having said that, it was a very big deal for him because that way, this being an undergraduate institution, that way our students who work and done exemplary work in the classroom could be seen coming from an institution whose academic rigor and academic standards are such that they would be considered more favorably when applying to graduate programs or to going to do for career opportunities. So you greatly benefit from the work of people like Brazil, but he was also a forefather in labor practices, and the dissertation that he wrote was called The Brotherhood of Pullman Porters. Does anybody know what a Pullman car porter is? Yes, sir.
They were the group with A. Philip Randolph. So they were
Look at that.
during I think it was the 1920s.
Right.
Fighting for workers' rights and labor unions.
On trains, yes. Great job. What's your name? Where are you from, Justin? East Point. Justin Clopton, East Point, Georgia. Thank you, Justin Clopton. And what's your class here? One of those 27. Thank you. Centennial. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Justin. Yeah, so the major transportation in the United States at the time was train. And there were black men that worked in those trains, and they were called Pullman car porters. And they unionized so that they could have basic rights, so that they could equal pay, and any number of other things for dignity and humanity, and so that they could be treated in the proper manner. Having said that, Brazil studied their story, studied their narrative, and wrote about them in a heavily regarded book that was his dissertation about how they organized. And it was really one of the first books written about organized labor for black people in the United States. I think it might have been the first one written about organized labor efforts for black people in the United States of America. So that's this man who came from the same place that you come from, who's walked the same Century campus lawn that you have walked and been on.
Sat in Crown Forum.
Sat in chapel. Yeah, they called it chapel back then. Every day, they had chapel every day. Every day, y'all have it, once a week and only on certain weeks. But and there was no Crown Forum after dark back then. They had chapel every day, dressed up, jacket and tie. So things have evolved.
Things have evolved.
Fortunately, things have evolved.
Due to the work of
do the work of people. Absolutely. Do the work of good brothers like B.R. Brazil. But he also inspired others, obviously, while he was in school, while he was teaching at Morehouse, while he was an administrator at Morehouse. and did a lot in the Atlanta community as well to help increase the number of supporters that Morehouse has, and worked in concert with Dr. Mays to make sure that good opportunities were flowing Morehouse's way. And that continues today with the work of our alumni and our alumni association, which is the president is Javaro Edwards from the class of '92, and the executive director is Michael Levesque from the class of '89, and as well as, of course, our vice president of external relations and alumni engagement, Henry Goodgame, my boss, from the class of 1984. So alumni, I think one of the reasons that Brazil is mentioned so often is because he was one of the first alums to do the things that he did and come back and teach and mold and do all the things that he did for Morehouse students. And not to say that there weren't others, but he was the first one to have such a lengthy career at Morehouse, and such that he was a constant presence of what could be. So when students were in school, like Martin Luther King and Maynard Jackson and Spike Lee and Sam Jackson and others, when students were in school, he was a dean of students, man. So he knew everybody.
No, yeah.
Yeah, they had to go through that Horcrux or that crucible of a dean. Did Horcrux land on some of you? Some of you it landed. All right, of a dean, and so it was very evident the effect that he had on the students at the time.
No, just to touch on that before we touch on the Alumni Association, there's a document if you guys ever want to go to the library and look into the archive.
You should.
There's an archive about Dean Brazil, and he has a document writing about two students from Morehouse going to a graduate program or to graduate school, and one of those students was Martin King. Right. And even in that document, he's speaking about him in an uplifting way because he's the only person that can speak about the students at Morehouse being the Dean of Men. But in the document, he also brings up like Martin's GPA. He brings up like how he grew up a little bit. But in all, he's giving off the tone that these young men are younger than most people that graduate from college at this time, because the war was going on. Martin and them were maybe 2-3 years younger than they were supposed to be. But in his work, he's letting them know, don't look at these young men's GPA solely. What makes a Morehouse man is the multifaceted aspects of it. And he finishes off that letter kind of letting them know, academically, these men are ready, but interpersonally, I think that they can be in New York with interracial situations.
Yeah, in environments.
Environments.
Yeah, I read the same. I read the same letter.
And I didn't want to say that he was preparing to let them know that these young men will be able to
adapt,
traverse racism and the different types of underlying things in academia, but essentially knowing who Dr. Brazil was, knowing who those men would become. That's what he was saying. He was speaking on the value of that young man before the world knew who he was.
Absolutely. And you may not recognize it or know it right now, but when you are looking for letters of recommendation for graduate school, for a job, and things of that nature, these are the type of things that are written about you. That, hey, yes, the GPA might be X, Y, Z, but this person is mentally strong. He's confident. He's brilliant. He can communicate. All these other things. And to your point, Kyrie, one of the things Brazil was saying about King specifically was that he was far more than a GPA, and I think we can all agree on that in the room. I think we can all agree that we bring more to the table than just our grade point average. So even doing that for King, who graduated in 48, if you think about it, who graduated in 48, it's amazing because that legacy of support of our students continues today. And when you are applying to graduate programs, or you are looking for career opportunities or internship opportunities, in many cases you speak to administrators or professors to ask for letters of recommendation, and those are the type of things that they say about how ready you all are for the world, and how the world needs to really get ready for you. but how you all will be comfortable in almost any environment and how you can thrive in that. And that is the ideal that we strive for when we send you out into the world every summer and then on May 19th this year that we'll do that for the same for the class of 24 and eventually the class of 27 and others. But yeah, he has a great archives, series of archives there at Woodruff Library, which can be accessed digitally as well.
No, yeah. And
That's what I did.
no, yeah, I accessed it digitally. I didn't really go, but before we leave, I wanted to touch on the alumni affairs aspect and the alumni association. Of course, while we're here, from the first steps that you step on campus, you're getting instilled with the mentality of this is what a Morehouse man is, this is what Morehouse is, this is the expectation of Morehouse men. But as the year matriculates, as your matriculation happens, there's not this, no one comes and hands you a book and says, this is how you become an alumni. This is what you do to be an alumni. All of those things are slightly taught as you matriculate, but I would want you to speak towards, while working in this office, what should these young men be aspiring towards? What are they walking into? And as a first-year alumni myself, I think that this day is important, not just to uplift the brothers that came before us, but to close the gap between on-campus brothers and off-campus brothers. So if you could speak towards, anything in relation to what I just said, I know that was a loaded question.
No, it's great. Thank you. It's a great question. So, like I said, I'm a member of the class of '04, so I graduated 20 years ago in May 16th. And we didn't have a book either. There was no book to say, hey, this is how you become an alum. But literally, this semester, we've been working to create programming for a series of programs to help each of these students eventually become engaged alums. Of course, that includes mentoring, right? There's 2,300 Morehouse students. There's 18,000 living alumni. There's no reason in the world that each of you shouldn't have at least one mentor, okay, that is an alum. Do you agree? Yeah? Okay, that's good math, right? 1 in 9. But having said that, in addition to that, we are creating programs to say, hey, if you have an interest, there was a student named Osco. I don't know if Osco's in here right now, but there's a student named Osco who came to my office, and we're in the Welcome Center right next to the assembly room where tours start. We're right across from admissions. Come through. I'm probably working, but come through, okay? Oh, I'm always working, sorry, but come through if you have questions. But he came through and he said, hey, I'm looking to apply to graduate school, to these business schools. Can you help me find which alumni have gone to the top 10 business schools? So I said, well, yeah, my friends that I went to college with did that. So I said, okay, well, and it's hit me like I need to create a repository so that so that you could just look it up and see something more substantial than LinkedIn, but something that you can see so that you all have access to that. Who works at McKinsey? Who works at Goldman? Who works at City Hall? Who are the alums who are in the mayor's cabinet? All these things you don't necessarily know, but we need to share that with you. But more importantly, being involved. Just being involved at Morehouse. Don't just go through Morehouse, let Morehouse go through you. I know people say that a lot, but you guys are involved in any number of things. Be proud of that, do the best you can in that. And then also, when the National Alumni Association has events, or they're doing things on campus, they'll go to the CAF, they have meetings the third Tuesday of every month. Come through there. But also engage, obviously, with our office, with the Office of Alumni, External Relations and Alumni Engagement, and also at major events, like we just had Founders Week. Last month, we got reunion and commencement coming up. I say reunion first because that's what my responsibility is. Reunion and commencement coming up in May. There are volunteer opportunities there, but I think the way to be an engaged alum is to be an engaged Morehouse student, because if you love Morehouse enough to stay at Morehouse and graduate from Morehouse, then you show that love as well by helping the brothers around you, by looking to recruit other people to come to Morehouse, and by giving your opinion on how Morehouse can be better. Yes. So yeah, I'm not doing it through rose-colored glasses, right? I'm just saying, if you don't tell us, I can't improve. Or if you go off and do X, Y, Z thing, like, hey, I got a new job, I did this, but Morehouse didn't say anything. Well, you didn't tell us. So we have to know what those new roles are, new responsibilities are. We write an email that we send out to 18,000 alums every Monday, Alumni Weekly Update. If you don't get it, I'm gonna make sure you get it, Kyrie. I'm sorry.
I'm in there.
Okay,
Come
cool.
on now, you know.
So we do. Thank you. So we write that, and as soon as it's sent, then I usually get 5. Hey, this is what I just done. This is what I'm doing. You know, it's a lot of FOMO, but it's great too because you see what brothers are doing, and I think the best way to keep that going is the way that you're so positive now. I mean, I roll through campus. We called it Hump Wednesday in my day when I started it 24 years ago, but literally. But now I know it's called Hump. I roll through that or other events and things of that nature. I love what y'all got going. I mean, it's great. It's great, but it's a continuation of that. And realizing that this is your network. Your classmates are your network, not just for the day, but for the rest of your lives in any number of ways, man. And so they're going to be some of the most important people in your lives. So remember that with your relationships and the way that you're interacting with each other and you're treating each other. And remember, please never forget this. Please, no one forgets. Okay? If you're acting a certain way and people and you can't be trusted to do X, Y, Z, to do certain things, people will remember that. And so just do your best to be good and decent and helpful and always remember that. But brothers are here to help. Morehouse alumni are here to help. Your fellow classmates who are your network are here to help. And we just want you to succeed and do the best you possibly can in all the things that you want to go out and do. So I think from an alumni perspective, we're so eager to try to help, but we're working on ways to connect students, like I said, to alumni in certain fields from certain areas as well, from Dublin, Georgia, from East Point, from Dallas, like I'm from, to connect students as well. And usually there's like a send-off when you're a freshman. So we're trying to also make sure that those chapters keep that connection going beyond that. And then doing our part also on campus to keep the excitement and the energy from NSO throughout the year, because it's puppy dogs and ice cream in August, everything is love, everything is fun, but when those classes hit and those quizzes come out of nowhere and all that stuff, it changes a bit. So, and during that time, you need encouragement. Everybody needs encouragement. Shoot. Today it was hard enough just to get up in here today. I know you, and congratulations for coming to Crown Forum today. Give yourselves a round of applause, please. Thank you. It was very hard for me to go to Crown Forum when I was in those seats, as well. But I passed it.
Hey,
all 6 semesters.
you got to.
Yeah, well, I couldn't have walked. There was no other way. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think that was a great point, and I think also to highlight the things that you were talking about, you never brought up money, which is something that I know is a key thing. But while here, it would be disingenuous to be up here as brothers and not speak about that, but to also know that that's not the only thing that the institution wants from you. There was someone who came before you who ignited your department, who ignited the house that you were in, who had the same hobbies as you, and you may not know that person. You may not know who that man was, but he went through the same things you went through, and he's waiting to meet you on the other side of the stage. So it is a good thing to know, like, the brothers that you are matriculating with, but also know the brothers that are outside of your major, are outside of your housing dormitory, outside of maybe even your matriculating class. Those are the type of gaps that younger alum have to close once they immediately graduate. And it's not hard either, like you're talking about. When I graduated last year, the first trip I took was to go see my mom after graduation in Houston, and I checked in with the Houston Alumni Association, which has a very big. They're very active. They're very active, and it was positive to see. Like my first week out being an alumni, and the things that we did were one community service, helping put things together for children in the Houston area going on a trip for the summer. But at the end, before we ate, we sung the hymn. And to me, the hymn was always just something we did at Crown Forum. But it was in that moment I realized, oh, this is our thing. Like anywhere I can go and link arms with my brothers and sing this hymn, this is our sacred space. And even the people who were Spelmanites, Clarkites, like, you know, the community is there with us even when we're not around, or not at Morehouse, you know, they were around us, but they saw us stand up and sing the hymn, and they were in awe, but also understood, like, oh, this is their thing. This is how they, one, connect, but two, kind of sanction something as a space that Morehouse men have come through, and a space that Morehouse men have considered worthy
And a shared experience.
a shared experience.
Yeah, that regardless of where you're a class of 27 or 2027, you have these, there's common experiences, shared experiences, like I mentioned, and a number of things that unify you, regardless of where you're from, socioeconomic level, how soon you've been out in comparison to others who graduated years before. One of the unifying thing is Theo Morehouse. Right, and the words that are in that song, and you did mention the funding, and yes, obviously, time, talent, treasure is very important. Treasure is very important, and so you get information about that as well. But just yesterday, I created a donor wall for my class of 2004, of the guys who've given in this fiscal year, given to scholarship funds, so that there are more scholarship dollars for you, our students. And some of my friends were out of that list. And I said, guys, before I drop this donor wall, hey, I'm giving you a day to get on this list. And we raised like $5,000 yesterday from the class. And so now their names are on the donor wall. So now I can share it, right? But they didn't ask any questions. They knew why it was important. They knew you all were important enough to invest in, just like someone had done that for them as well. And just like you said, it's a great story about it's that first time you sang it since commencement, right? And singing it at the end of commencement, brother, that's an emotional thing in and of itself when you sing Daryl Morehouse at the end.
The youngest dude there too, like
I think you were.
Yeah, so it was like they all embraced me openly, like almost as if we went to, like we were on campus together at the same time, like that feeling you feel when you see somebody that you know, like, oh, you went to Morehouse. Like we don't talk every day. Like I might not know your name directly, but like I know that you're my brother. And in that moment, that was what like grasped that together. And then of course after, you know, we all are having the conversation like, you know, which campus? Like, you know, this is the last time I've been there. This is what I studied. This is who I was with while I was on campus. Right. So it was good to bond in that moment, but I wanted to share that with students because sometimes some of the things that we do in preparing ourselves to be Morehouse men, we don't fully comprehend it. Like, you know, these are, like you said, these are shared experiences, but these are the things and traditions that are valuable to continue to uphold and continue to know the history and know the value in.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know. I think this was a great session. I don't want to hold you guys too long.
Me neither.
If anybody has any questions, we'll leave open a question about the topics that we have. If not, we'll put up the QR code, and me and Kaina will stay after for questions. Before we leave, of course, we're going to sing the hymn, so please like come closer and close ranks. But other than that, I hope everybody's having a great semester. Seniors, last couple of weeks, please step hard and get out of here.
Finish strong.
Finish strong.
Go to class.
Underclassmen, reach out to Alumni Affairs, figure out who has an internship for you this summer, who has a fellowship or a scholarship for you next semester.
Absolutely.
Who in the region just is from where you're from, knows the things that you know, or wants you want to know something, but you don't know anyone in that field. Morehouse has closed that gap for you. So today was a good session. Let's sing the hymn. Let's get up out of here. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.